Good to see you guys. Thanks so much. Thank you. It's great to be in Fort Pierce. I want to thank 2nd Street Bistro for hosting us here, and we're really excited about today's announcement. We're also excited to have a number of great folks with us today. We have from the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, Dane Eagle. From your Congressman, Brian Mast is here. We have Representatives Trabulsi and Overdorfer here. Senator Gail Harrell. And already elected with no opposition, will be Senator Aaron Grahl. And from the city of Fort Pierce, Mayor Linda Hudson is here with us. So we've been obviously worked very hard over the past many years to make sure that Florida was a place for opportunity. We've been very good stewards. If you look at our most recent fiscal year that ended June 30th, we did a $102 billion budget with a $22 billion surplus, the largest in the history of Florida. We obviously have no income tax and the second lowest per capita state tax burden in the country, but yet, if you look with that, we've been able to do huge things to support infrastructure in Florida. We've done more for natural resources and water quality than any governor in the history of the state by a country mile. And we've also done more on education. We just did the biggest increase in teacher salaries in the history of Florida. We have per pupil funding. We've got a lot of good stuff going on. And so, we meet the obligations that the people want us to do, but we don't waste money like many of these other states. In New York, their budget's over twice the size of ours. They have 3 million fewer people than we do. It's like, where does all this money go? Massive tax increases all the time. Obviously, they're not putting it into public safety because you have crime going through the roof. So we're proud of what we've been able to do. And then, of course, making sure we kept the state open when so many other places were not doing that. That saved the jobs of really millions of people, saved businesses all up and down the state, and really helped Florida kind of be the place where people would want to go if they wanted to be able to be free. And so what you've seen is in 2021, we set a domestic tourism record in the state of Florida. And so far in 22, we're outpacing the pace of last year by 20%. 2021... 2021, if you looked at all foreign travel, international travel into the United States, almost 45% of that came to Florida. That's a massive percentage of the overall market that's doing it, and it's because they didn't want to go to these other states and be discriminated against. I mean, if you think about some of these mandates that have been done over the last couple of years, you still see them now. They're not letting Djokovic come to the United States to play the U.S. Open because of the shot, which he's already had COVID, and the shot is not, it's not stopping you from getting this. It is so bizarre, it is so stupid that they're doing this, but you had a lot of these bizarre policies going on in these other states. So are you going to want to travel internationally to end up in a state where you're going to have to navigate all this nonsense, or do you want to travel to Florida where you'll be able to do what you want? So that's really been something that separated us, and that's why our unemployment rate is lower than the national average. In July, we clocked in at 2.7%. The nation was 3.5%. We have actually more people employed now than we did prior to COVID. And no one predicted that. They thought our entire hospitality and leisure industry was going to end up collapsing, and we lifted it up and made sure that people were able to do that. You also look at our labor force. Our labor force is growing much better than the country as a whole, which is really, really important. And we did over 70,000 private sector jobs in July. That's one of the best numbers in the modern history of Florida. And so we're doing all that with a lot of these headwinds that we're seeing from Washington with the Biden administration. You look when they came in and they started printing all this money, the cost of all this stuff really started shooting up. Groceries, energy, utilities, home prices, rent, all these different things that have really, and not obviously throughout the whole country, but we're not immune to that here in Florida. So you see that, and the energy is I think, intentional, because they're really trying to make it hard to produce oil and gas here in the United States. And I think if you look what's going on in Europe, they're facing some really serious problems because of some of the choices they made with respect to energy. Massive, massive spikes, and that could get very ugly very, very quickly. So, in the United States, it's a national security issue. It's an economic security issue. We need to be able to produce our own energy. We need to make sure we have enough energy to be able to run the economy and to make it so that people are able to afford it. That's not what Biden has wanted to do. He thinks that somehow you're not going to have oil and gas. It's just going to be windmills and solar. That's not going to happen. And like Florida, we've got a lot of solar, and it's fine. It's a complement, but it is not a substitute to be able to run an economy. I think Europe is finding out, with being so dependent on Russia for some of this. They're really at the mercy there. You see, some of these areas are just seeing massive spikes. That's devastating. And so, we don't want to see that here. Unfortunately, I do think that you're going to see it looks like oil futures are going back up. You could end up seeing gas prices turn back up over the next couple months. There's a lot of people that are predicting that. So that's a huge problem, and that impacts everything that's going on with the economy. It's not just going to the gas pump and getting hit with higher gas prices. It impacts everything that people are buying, and businesses, and the whole 9 yards. You look at how much food has gone up. Been huge spikes in prices for food. So the bills at grocery stores, obviously restaurants have to deal with it too. So you see all that. And then what are they doing to try to mitigate that? Actually, I think they're putting fuel on the fire. If you look at this most recent legislation, Inflation Reduction Act, they're calling it, they're actually imposing taxes on energy, on oil and gas. And so they're going to make it more expensive. When you tax something, it becomes more expensive. So they impose taxes on that, knowing that we're facing all these energy problems, which is a huge no-no. They also authorize 87,000 new IRS agents, and those IRS agents are going to be mobilized to go after people that the government doesn't like. This is not something where they're only going to be going after billionaires. In fact, billionaires all have accountants and lawyers. They're going to be going after people who are not going to be able to defend themselves against these audits. And, they actually proposed an amendment when this was being debated in the U.S. Senate, saying none of these agents can audit under $400,000 a year, and the Democrats voted that down. They did not want to protect Americans that are making under $400,000. So your question is why would they not have wanted to do that? Because they want this to be something that is going after sole proprietors and handymen and people that own restaurants or people that drive an Uber. And so it's going to be those folks that are going to be least able to withstand an audit that they're going to go after, because that's really the low-hanging fruit. If you go after that, you're going to be able to probably scrounge a lot of stuff. So that's not a good thing for an economy to be unleashing the IRS. And it's also the case that the tax code isn't even, it's incomprehensible. So if they go after you, a lot of times they're going to be able to find something, especially if you don't have an accountant or you don't have lawyers. So I thought it was really, really reprehensible that they'd be mobilizing 87,000 IRS agents. And I think every member of Congress that voted for that bill should be required to be audited every year by the IRS. Then Biden is saying he can unilaterally do this student loan, just cancel, well, not really cancel. Taxpayers will pick up the tab, for student loans. And first of all, you can't do that unilaterally by executive action. He does not have the authority to do that. This is something that a lot of people have said, even Pelosi said couldn't be done. And yet he's going ahead and doing it. And so that's not consistent with the constitutional form of government. But you also look at what will the effects of this be. And you even have economists that work for Barack Obama saying this is going to put gas on the inflation fire because you're going to effectively be injecting a lot more money with an already big money supply. So I think that that's something, it's certainly not going to reduce inflation, and it very well may exacerbate. And they think it may end up being $1 trillion when all is said and done. They've been doing trillions of dollars every year, it seems like, just kind of keep doing it, hoping nothing goes wrong. But when you have inflation the way it is, not the opportune time to do it. And the thing is like, okay, you have people that have paid it off, so it's obviously not fair to them. You have other people that have made other choices because they didn't want to go deep into debt, and so maybe they pursued trades or other things rather than do this, so that now they're going to be foot with the bill. But it's also the fact that the colleges and universities have benefited from all this debt. They raise tuition. They expand their administrative, massive bloat in the bureaucracies in a lot of these universities. And like a lot of them have these big endowments. Why aren't they paying for the loans? They should be responsible for the loans because it was their recklessness. It wasn't the American taxpayer that was reckless about it. And so what Biden's doing, he doesn't have the authority to do it. But if you're going to do something, no reform of higher education, no reform of any of this the way it's gone for the last generation, which has been a massive amount of waste going into a system and putting a lot of debt on the backs of a lot of people. In Florida, we don't permit that. So since I've been governor, there have been no tuition increases at our state university. We've frozen the tuition. And basically, you can go to University of Florida or Florida State. It's like $6,000, $6,400 for in-state tuition. Not a lot of places around this country where you can get that, where you can go for that type. So we've just said it's got to be affordable. We're not going to just pump money in with more tuition, run the institution in an effective way, and deliver value for something so that students can go to school and not end up deep in debt, and so they can actually do something with their life rather than be smothered in this. And so I think that there's a whole host of reasons why it was very problematic, but I am proud of what we've been able to do in Florida to recognize that going deep into debt is not a good thing. And if you go $100,000 in debt and you end up with a master's degree in engineering from MIT, look, you're going to be okay. You're going to do fine. But what happens is you have these fourth-tier universities that they charge as much as Harvard, and people go 100, 150,000 in debt because they're told it's just this piece of paper that's magic, and that's not true. And so that's why we've said it's got to be affordable. We're proud that our university system is ranked #1 by U.S. News and World Report. We're proud that now, University of Florida is now the 5th-ranked public university in the country behind UCLA, Berkeley, Michigan, and Virginia. And that was used to be like 20th in the country for public. Now it's 5. So that's quality for affordability, and I don't think anybody in the country has a better value proposition than we do. But at the same time, as much as we're proud of that, we've done a lot to expand workforce education, because there's a whole bunch of different pathways where you can be successful. You don't have to go to a 4-year brick and ivy university. And so we've done a lot to expand apprenticeships, to expand job training for things that are really, really important. And when you look at the supply chain, you need more people to drive trucks. You need people that can fix trucks. There's a whole host of things that you need. It also helps attract manufacturing when you see that a state is very committed to strong workforce. So we're going to continue to do that. I think it makes a lot of sense. And the Job Growth Grant Fund, which we're going to talk about today for here in Fort Pierce, that's one of the tools that we've used to be able to identify what the needs are in workforce, where we can make an impact. And so when we're expanding commercial driver's license slots, when we're expanding apprenticeships, when we're doing things, a lot of times it's because we're looking to see around the state where we could get the most impact on. So we've done a lot on job training and workforce education, and I think that that's paid off. I think it'll continue to pay off. But we've also done a lot on infrastructure with our Job Growth Grant Fund, because there are certain things that if you can provide an underlying support for infrastructure, then the economy and all this stuff has an opportunity to really grow. And we've done that in various portions of the state, and we've had a lot of impact, and businesses have moved, and there's been expansion. And so we allow local communities to apply for these grants. We kind of scrutinize them. They're ranked according to impact. And then we determine in my office kind of what makes the most sense to be able to get the most bang for our buck. And so here in Fort Pierce, you have an opportunity with what's going on with some of this revitalization that you're seeing. And so we're proud today to be able to award $2.7 million to the city to redevelop the 8-acre Kings Landing site in the city's downtown area. And that has an opportunity to do a lot. So this will help the city reconstruct aging utility infrastructure, reconstruct a portion of Indian River Drive, make pedestrian safety enhancements, and improve the Moores Creek Bridge. So these public infrastructure improvements will help this area attract new businesses, including restaurants, retail stores, and even a full-service hotel. Additionally, by improving this infrastructure and addressing transportation needs, the project will support additional growth in nearby areas like the Port of Fort Pierce and the Fisherman's Wharf project. And so we're very bullish on St. Lucie County as a whole. We think Fort Pierce, really is a great spot, and I think this is really going to help the area continue to blossom. So we anticipate that this project alone will end up attracting about 1,300 jobs to the area, and will have a fiscal impact of over $5 million. And of course, to the extent it's helping these other areas too, that fiscal impact is able to build. So it's an honor for me to be able to present the mayor with the check. So where's she at? Get over here, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
The banks have been known to balk at that, but you can try your best, but the money is in the mail one way or another. Okay, well, we have our representative, Dana Trabulsi, here that's going to say a few words, and we'll hear from Dane Eagle.
Well, thank you so much for being here. This is a big day for Fort Pierce, and it's so nice to be here with family and all of these friends that are family too. And I can't tell you what an honor it's been to work with your office and with Secretary Eagle on this great project for downtown Fort Pierce. It's not just going to bring jobs and infrastructure to our community. It's going to bring tourism to our community. It's going to bring entrepreneurship to our community, and it's going to bring small businesses to our community. And we are just so excited that you have just deemed it important to invest in our little slice of heaven here. And when we're finished, we would like to invite you back to see our good work. We really appreciate all that you're doing, all your office is doing, and I would be remiss if I did not say that this could not have happened without the City of Fort Pierce and the St. Lucie County Economic Development Council for working together in partnership, understanding how important it is to revitalize downtown, this for everybody, not just the Treasure Coast. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. All right, Dane Eagle, Florida Department of Economic Community.
I'm excited that the DEO has to do with in these opportunities with the fiscal opportunity, but he's investing in freedom policy. Florida's at the nation in almost every economic measure possible. And the governor gave a few stats when he was talking. I want to highlight one of them, and that's in workforce. Workforce really tells you where the opportunity is, how people are feeling, are they optimistic, where are they looking. And the fact of the matter is the nation today has fewer workers than they did pre-pandemic. However, Florida has 350,000 more workers than we did pre-pandemic. So these states that are contributing to that deficit, the residents are leaving in droves, and they're looking for hope and opportunity in Florida. This investment today is going to help attract those workers, and we're glad to be able to do that through the governor's Job Growth Grant Fund. Thank you again for the opportunity, Governor DeSantis.
All right. If you look at the national economic numbers, particularly over the last year and a half or so, I mean, you take Florida and Texas out, and it's a lot worse. I mean, we've really carried the load for so much of the country because you have other parts of the country, they were locked down for so long, and people fled, businesses have left, the society is kind of just frayed, and then most of those same jurisdictions have embraced soft on crime policies, where they're letting people out of prison, where prosecutors aren't prosecuting people for crimes the prosecutor doesn't deem important, where they go after law enforcement wanting to defund police or attack police. So you end up having these places around the country that people just don't feel safe in. And whether it's New York City, whether it's San Francisco, whether it's Chicago, these are places that have had huge, huge problems. And here's the thing, we can talk about infrastructure, education, all these things, low taxes, very important. None of that will amount to much if you don't have safe communities. If people don't feel safe, forget it. Your society is not going to thrive. And so they've taken the position in different parts of the country that, well, you can go in and steal from a store, as long as you don't steal over $1,000, that you're just not going to be prosecuted. You can go, people will get mugged in LA, and the cops will say, look, they're not going to prosecute this. I talked to a guy from San Francisco, someone broke into his house and they wouldn't prosecute it. Well, guess what? All you're doing is breeding contempt for the law, you're emboldening the criminal element, and you end up having the inmates run the asylum. And so we in Florida are a law and order state, and that's just the way it's going to be. And we need to be more concerned with helping the victims of crime than in placating the perpetrators of crime. And that's what you're seeing all throughout the country, where they're bending over backwards to make arrangements and accommodations for the criminal element. And they're leaving the victims high and dry. And so we're happy to be supporting law enforcement. We're happy to be supporting strong laws. We did have a prosecutor over in Tampa that had said he's only going to support certain laws and he's going to make these decisions about which laws he'll enforce and not. And so we removed that individual from office because he's not out following his oath of office. But very, very important, because when this unwind, if you let this unwind, you start to see society really fray, and it's tough to put that genie back in the bottle. I mean, a lot of these places, they're going to have a long, long road to come back. You look at a place like Minneapolis, where they rioted and burned down the place. It's been absolutely devastated, not even close to getting back to normal, and that's going to take years, and you know what? It may never get back to normal. And you look at these places, they'll do the thing where they'll compare restaurant reservations, which is an indication of just societal health, economic health. Florida, most of our places are up 20, 30% since pre-COVID, which is huge because we were doing well pre-COVID. A lot of these other places like San Francisco, they're down 40% pre-COVID. Minneapolis is down 51. New York City down 35. I mean, this is just what you're seeing because of those policies. And the crime has so much to do with it. You'll be sitting outside eating in some of these places, and you'll have homeless come up and bother the diners. Well, no one wants to be involved in that. You see all these tents all over the place in some of these areas. It's really, really problematic. So we're not going to let that happen here. We're proud of what we've been able to do, not just to support law enforcement. We did 2 years in a row where all first responders, firefighters, and sworn law enforcement got $1,000 bonuses. And so the second year's bonuses are going to be going out in the mail very soon. And we're proud to show appreciation for folks that are protecting our communities. But we've also done a program where if you have some of these law enforcement who are being treated so poorly in these other jurisdictions, if they move to Florida, or even the young people, if they go into law enforcement from within Florida for the first time, you get a $5,000 recruiting signing bonus right off the top. So you got people that are really excited about coming down here. And I'm excited as well. So, you have the governor of New York saying, all Republicans need to leave the state, just get on a bus. I mean, how absurd is that, that you would say that? But it shows the mindset. If you don't bow down to what they want, then somehow you're a second-class citizen. That's very dangerous for a society. We're a diverse society. We've got people with a lot of different views, and we're proud to have been able to, have enacted a big agenda in Florida, which we have strong support across the state for on all our initiatives. But you can't go down the road of saying these people don't count. What would happen? I mean, how many people would be working in NYPD or the fire department if you kicked out all the Republicans from there? It's really, really crazy that people are saying stuff like this. And so, in Florida, we try to embrace policies, that anyone can benefit from. And we want people to do well, regardless of, how they may register with a particular political party. And so we're much different than New York in that respect, and I think we're a much freer state as a result. Okay, happy to take a question or two. I will say someone was asking, so there was a report about, I was going to help someone who was going to cancel, I had to cancel an engagement Sunday night, and there was like a tragedy. People thought it was like a family tragedy with me. I just want to make sure we're okay. It was not what it was. It was, I had, family obligations to get back, and then Monday morning I attended, which was a tragedy. We lost one of our special agents from FDLE, and so we went to the funeral. It was a very sad thing. Phenomenal special agent, had been a veteran and worked for Miami PD, and so that was the situation that I had to come back to Florida to address, and we did that. The other thing I'll just say before I leave is, you see Chris with this running mate that he picked from down in Miami, who's a teacher union boss, and sympathetic to Fidel Castro, which was unbelievable to see that tweet, worked tooth and nail to lock kids out of school in 2020. They opposed everything we did in the state of Florida to give kids an opportunity and to put parents and families first. They wanted them locked out of school. They wanted to mimic the policies of Los Angeles, Chicago, D.C. They wanted that to be what happened in the state of Florida. And we already know the catastrophic damage that happened for locking these kids out of school. And we know Florida is so much better off because we actually put our kids first, and we understood how important it was to be in education. She and her union were more interested in politics than they were in the best interest of these kids. And then you come to see that they had one of their top henchmen in the union down in Miami who was a middle school teacher. He was sexually abusing middle school students for years and years. And everybody knew this was going on, and her union protected him, knowing that he represented a threat to those students in middle school classrooms. And he abused, and he abused, and he abused, and he finally got caught, and he's finally in prison. But they cared more about the power of their union than they did about the best interests of these kids. That is disgraceful. You do not put union politics ahead of middle school students who are in danger of being sexually abused. I think that's disqualifying to be in any political office, much less lieutenant governor of the state of Florida.